Friends, I want to thank you for coming here today and for supporting the state of Israel and for standing up for peace. I know that the decision for some of you to come here today was not easy. I know that there are some voices that don't want your support to Israel to be heard. Some people who believe that freedom of speech and expression is important, but only if you agree with them. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for not letting those voices intimidate you. I want to thank you for your courage to stand up for what is right. But friends, it is not the joy of victory that gathers us here today, but tears of sorrow. Sorrow for the tragic suffering that was caused by a war that should have never happened. When Hamas began firing at Israel, we did not respond. We held back because we know what the terrible and tragic consequences of war could be. We hoped that Hamas would do the one thing that could have prevented all of this suffering. Stop firing rockets. That's all. But that didn't happen. In 2 weeks, Hamas launched 300 rockets on Israeli cities, on Israeli homes, factories, schools. And all throughout, we held back and we kept calling, stop the rockets. Quiet will be met with quiet. But Hamas only grew bolder and crueler. We accepted 10 ceasefires, but every time we cease, Hamas fires. And while we are dealing from terror falling on us from above, Hamas launched a new campaign of terror coming from below ground as well. Friends, make no mistake, these are not holes in the ground. These are sophisticated tunnels with electricity, with railroads, the creativity, the hard work, the child labor, all of those, everything aimed at only one thing: to kidnap and murder Israelis. The level of dedication is sickening. On July 7th, Israel said enough is enough. Hamas saw our restraint as a sign of weakness. They could not have been more wrong. Because Israel always has and always will defend itself from those who seek to harm it, with a determination you find only in those whose ultimate aim is not victory, but peace, not triumph, but life, the ability to live without fear. Hamas calls themselves freedom fighters, but the truth is, they're not fighting for freedom, they're fighting against it. Hamas calls itself an Islamic movement, but the truth is, nothing could be further from the spirit of Islam. Friends, there's a good reason to be concerned in our region. The wave of radical Islam in the Middle East is one of the most disturbing phenomena of our time. It is devastating to see how such evils are being committed in the name of God of love and peace. For the first time in 2,000 years, there are no Christians left in the city of Mosul in Iraq. The Christians in our region, whose freedom of religion is not as protected as mine is in Israel, are victims to one of the greatest crimes against humanity of our times. And let us not forget that the majority of victims of terror and violence coming from Islam are Muslims. And our heart goes out to all of those Muslims, Christians, Yazidis, everyone who have been victims in the course of using the religion as a disguise of this campaign to take the entire region back to the Dark Ages. Israel is standing at the front line of this battle against radicalism and Islamism. Hamas, like ISIS, like ISIL, shares a disdain for democracy, contempt for modernity, and the willingness to target innocent civilians. And to those who criticize Israel, I say, we share your grief over the death of innocent people. We share your rage over the human tragedies that are unfolding. We are willing to accept criticism. We're not perfect, But we cannot accept your criticism when you remain silent over calls to destroy Israel. We cannot accept your silence over the dehumanization of Israel. We cannot accept your silence over Hamas war crimes, and we cannot accept your silence over Hamas abuse of the people in Gaza, because your silence is deafening. You want the people of Gaza to live in dignity? So do we. You want the Palestinian children to grow up with hope? So do we. Last November, Israel was asked to treat a little Palestinian girl in Gaza